just a brief summary of the Virginia Tech game is not a lot different than what I said after the game. I think the key was playing hard in the game, playing for 60 minutes, winning in the fourth quarter. I think making 13 explosive plays offensively was a real key. And I think we responded extremely well to adversity in the game, even though some of that adversity was self-inflicted. And I make no excuse for that relative to first game, last game. You know, we need to learn, you know, how to play our game as a team. You know, you can't tolerate mistakes. We made some lethal mistakes in this game that are all correctable, but we have to quit doing that. We have to play with more discipline. We have to put the team first in terms of making personal choices and decisions, whether it's technique, personal behavior, whatever it is. And everybody's got to have a personal plan to correct it. And that's simple, and it's my responsibility, and that's what we need to do. I think that these things are all correctable, and we had some very positive performances in this game by lots of players. Obviously, Mark Ingram being recognized as the SEC player. Mike Johnson played very well on the offensive line. You know, our coaches kind of picked Mark and Greg for his performance as the offensive players. Orlando is a defensive player, and you know, P.J. Fitzgerald probably had his most consistent day as a punter, and Selman did a great job. Doesn't get a lot of recognition, but downed the ball, recovered a fumble, downed the ball inside the 5 and recovered a fumble. So those guys are the ones that the guys that we recognize as a coaching staff. We're certainly looking forward to our home opener this week. It's great to play at home. It's great to play here where we have fantastic tradition and great fans. I think our players are looking forward to it. We certainly enjoyed the great support that we had in Atlanta, and that was a very positive venue in every way. But we're always happy to play at home and looking forward to it. I think FIU is a young team and have a lot of players coming back. They made a significant amount of improvement from year 1 to year 2. They have a lot of players coming back, and they actually have a lot of speed, a lot of team speed. They're a wide-open, throw-the-ball, vertical passing game. Their quarterback's back, and he had a good year last year. The receiver, number 4, Hilton, is probably as good a player as anybody in the country. I think he was way up there in all-purpose yards, or led the country in all-purpose yards last year. They haven't had a game, and there's some differences in depth chart from last spring to last year to where it is right now. I think they might have had some guys out last year that are going to come back and play, especially defensively. But, you know, this is one of those games that I think we need to focus on what we need to do and improve as a team, and it's going to be very important that we make a significant improvement from, you know, week 1 to week 2.
Coach Saban, you referred in your remarks to correctable personal behavior. Could you sort of share with us what you talked with Rolando about in relative to sort of keeping his composure on the field and his situation?
Well, Ro's been a very positive guy here. I'm as proud of his development as any player that we have on the team. He's certainly a team leader. He's a great competitor. I think sometimes guys that are that competitive and that emotional about what they're trying to do need to know when they're getting overboard. And he obviously lost his cool in the game. That's not good. I would classify that as self-indulgent behavior. If I did it, he did it, anybody on our team did it, to where what you did and how you responded could cost your team. And that certainly cost the team, and it could have cost the team even more. So he learned from it. He apologized to the people for it at halftime, and he has apologized to the team. So I think, you know, he's the first guy that after the game came up to me and said, I really messed up. And I'm sure he feels worse about it than just about anybody, but it's only something that you can learn from. Certainly made a mistake, needs to learn. If he's going to be a leader on the team, which he has been a very positive leader for us, that's not the kind of things good leaders can do.
Coach, given its location in South Florida where a good bit of talent, is FIU the kind of program that you could see maybe building what others in the past like Miami have, if the resources were there and they were able to keep some of that talent at home?
Well, they have. I think they have 90% of their teams from the state of Florida, maybe more than that. I didn't count it all up, but and they have good players. They have a lot better players than what you think they have, and they have lots of team speed, and they have made significant progress, as I mentioned, from year 1 to year 2, and they're going to have a better team this year, in my opinion. So this is going to be a completely different challenge for us. Lots of great skill guys, lots of speed on the field, wide open, spread out all over the place, getting guys the ball that can run with it in space, and it'll be a challenge for us defensively, and they've got really good team speed on defense. So I do think this is a program that can be successful.
And you also seem to get out of the game Saturday without any significant injuries. Can you just update? I know Mark kind of limped off there at the end. Was he doing okay?
He's fine. He just bruised his knee a little bit, and he should be fine. He's going to be able to practice today. There's nobody missing practice today unless they have the flu. And we do have some guys that have the flu. There's still a couple guys out there. I don't remember all of them. They're different than what they were last week, but hopefully we can put this behind us. I think Starr might have it, but it's kind of day-to-day right now.
Coach, how would you grade out the offensive line from Saturday night?
Well, I think they played better as the game went on, and we had 230 yards rushing. Obviously, our pass protection and the whole overall passing game, even though we made explosive plays, probably needs to continue to improve. And I'm sure as every one of these guys watches the film, they'll see today that they all have room for improvement, as we all do. But I was pleased that we were able to accomplish what we did, and we actually played better as the game went on, which I think is a good sign.
Coach, I've got a recruiting question for you. You told us a great story last year about your relationship with Andre Rison's grandmother and how that helped get him to Michigan State. Can you just comment on the importance of building a rapport, not just with recruits, but also the people around them, the moms and dads and so forth?
Well, I don't think there's any question about the fact that recruiting is all about relationships, building relationships, and developing respect and trust and having respect for other people, and them respecting what you're trying to do to help the young people that are in your program be successful personally as people in their development, and have an opportunity to be successful in life, and as student athletes, that they understand that they're not really students, that they are student athletes, and they are in the limelight, and they have a responsibility and an obligation to represent themselves in a first-class way, academically, graduating, and as well as what your plan is to help them develop as a football player. So all those things I think are important, and developing relationships and understanding with people are probably critical to getting that point across and respected.
Coach, it seems a lot more teams are running variations of the Wildcat package, the direct snap to the running back. So it would seem defenses have seen it a lot, but when they do see it, it still seems to be a tough adjustment for defenses. Why is that?
Well, I think that you saw it in the NFL last year, and I think when people see something that's new and difficult to defend, which it is, because you create another gap on defense. The quarterback's no longer the quarterback, and in none of the coverages that we play, if we play man-to-man, nobody's got the quarterback. Now you put him out as a receiver and put a tailback, you've created another gap to defend on defense, to run the same plays that you normally run. And by using the motion gap for speed sweep, at least keep the people on the perimeter honest. And everybody's developing their ways to try to defend this. But I also think that people are expanding what they do in this probably more and more, so that if you're not defending the middle of the field properly or whatever, they're going to have some passes and some things to do to take advantage of that. Ole Miss has always been able to do that. They could do it at Arkansas, and I just think that, it's one of those things, and the defenses will probably catch up with it, and, maybe it won't be as difficult to defend once that happens, and maybe not as many people will do it.
Coach, following up on the Wildcat thing, what is your terminology? What is Alabama's terminology, the name for that formation?
I call it Wildcat.
Okay. And on
we
the
got some different names for different formations in it, but it's all the same thing. Wildcat is categorized as somebody that's not the quarterback in the quarterback position. You still got to call your formations and all that. So, our terminology is a little different for that, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you what we call our plays and formations, and that's not for public interest or public knowledge. Somebody might be interested in it. I don't think it makes a difference what you call it. You can call it Houston, as long as everybody knows where to go line up and can relate to it.
And on the other side of the ball, can you talk about the pressure that you were able to get on the quarterback in that game and the improvement from last year maybe in that category?
Well, I think that, we got most of the pressure at the end of the game when we knew they were going to pass. Up until that time, at times we got some pressure, but at times we didn't have very good pass rush lanes. We got pushed by the quarterback a couple times, and he ran the ball against us. But I think we did affect the guy in the game by some of our disguises and checks, but I also think that our mental errors and inability to execute and communicate gave them two big plays, which was significant in them getting back in the game. One big play pass was on a busted coverage, and a big play run for a touchdown. The front busted, and the run support element wasn't very good in the back end. So we have plenty to do to improve on defense and play with a lot more discipline and togetherness in terms of what we're trying to do. We need to communicate better so we can play together and everybody's on the same page in terms of what we're doing.
Hey, Coach, talk about the 24-hour rule and how the team has really grown to it over last year and after a big win Saturday.
Well, I don't know how they've grown to it this year because we hadn't been through one yet. We've been through the 24 hours, but how they've responded to the 24 hours, we'll be looking at them here in about an hour. So, but the whole idea is to be able to play with consistency and to not get too frustrated if you don't get a successful result, but also not to get too comfortable if you get a successful result. That you have 24 hours to enjoy what happened or 24 hours to sort of get over it if it wasn't what you wanted to be, and then you have to reshift and refocus on the next opponent and the next thing that's coming up and sort of recenter yourself to improving and doing what you need to do to prepare for the next game. I've been around teams before that, you have a big win, it's Wednesday or Thursday before they're ready to start looking at the next game plan. Well, that's too late to prepare. I've also been around teams that lose a tough game and it takes them a long time to get over it to get ready to play the next game. So that's not what we want. Whatever happens, it's over and done now. We use today to learn from it. We make corrections today, and we need to move on to play well in the next game. And that's sort of the purpose of it.
Coach, last Saturday you talked about how Mark Ingram kind of faced some psychological hurdles in the middle of last year. Could you talk about what some of those were and how he was able to overcome them?
Just being a freshman. I mean, not nothing specific. I mean, just the emotions of dealing with success, emotions of getting frustrated when your expectation level raises because of the success that you have, and then all of a sudden you don't have that success and it frustrates you. I think it's human nature for all of us, and I think it takes maturity to be able to overcome that. And he certainly matured through last year. I think it showed in his performance at the end of the year, and he certainly showed in the game, this past Saturday night. So it's typical young player, You know, a lot of the young players that we took over there, they didn't even know what they were getting into. They didn't know they didn't know. And that's the difference between a freshman playing and not playing. And it takes unique guys to be able to not only be able to play but sustain that performance throughout the year. And Mark was ready to play. He just had some difficulty sustaining that performance throughout the year. And it was really a lot of his own personal expectations and goals that probably frustrated him a little bit. And once he sort of worked his way through that, he bounced back nicely and finished the year strong.
Yeah, Coach, you've answered part of this already, but wanted to ask you about Barron and Woodall and their new roles and how you think they did.
Look, we're not satisfied with the way we played. We made too many errors on defense, and they scored too many points, in my opinion, for the way we played defense, and they did it because of the mental errors that we created. Now, if we can get in the right places and do the right things, then if the other team's better than us and we can't cover them and they're too fast for us, or their blockers are too good and we can't play the blockers and be in the right places, then I can live with that. And if they score 30 points that way, I can live with that. But there's no excuse to not be able to execute the plan. And this is the whole defense I'm talking about right now. And it takes communication and confidence and preparation, and everybody's got to be responsible for it. And when we give up big plays because of that, that's something that needs to be corrected. And that's going to be the focus of what we try to get done today.
I apologize for going back to a subject that looks like we're all writing about, but that's the Wildcat. But did you work on that in the spring at all? And can you talk about what it's like just implementing something new?
No, we just started it in the fall, in fall camp. We felt like it was an easy adaptation with the plays that we ran. We're probably not as sort of far along in running it and timing it up and doing all the things we need to do to make it as effective as it could be. But it's something that we're going to continue to work on, and it gives the defense something else that they have to prepare for. Plus, I feel like we have some players that it may be able to enhance some of their abilities in terms of what they can do as well. So we'll continue to do it, but we just did it this fall, and we have lots of work to do on improving it.
Without naming names, can you talk about just how many players we might see at that spot this year?
Not really. I mean, you saw 22 was at that spot, and we got a couple that can be in there.
Coach, at one point in the second quarter, I think Greg was 2 for 12. Passing, had missed, I think 9 in a row, and yet finishes 13 out of 18 from that point. First of all, did you make any technical adjustments as far as what he was trying to do or so forth? And second of all, how was his confidence level at that point, and how was your confidence level at that point in a guy in his first game as quarterback?
Well, I never ever had any problems with his confidence, because I don't think that sometimes when a quarterback goes, what did you say he was, 2 for 9 or something, and missed 8 in a row, that doesn't add up. So 2 for whatever. Sometimes it's not his fault. We got pressure at times. We didn't have people open at times. We had a plan to try to get Julio the ball. They double covered him, so they took his first read away. And we had to make some adjustments, which actually opened it up for some other guys to make some plays, and those guys made some explosive plays. Mays, big play in the end. Hanks, big play. Several other explosive plays, and it also, helped us sort of be able to run the ball a little bit better as well. So I never had a problem with Greg because Greg was doing what he was supposed to do. He was a little late throwing the one that got tipped and got intercepted, but he should have had a little better protection on that as well. So, as I always say, that if the quarterback's going to play well, the people around him need to play well. And as the game went on, I think the entire offense played better. I think that helped him play better. He never got frustrated in the game and, sort of stayed on cue, and he had success later on in the game because of it.
Coach, heading into this week of practice and then the game on Saturday, how confident are you that this team, this program has the ability to stay on an even keel and not have any kind of a letdown from when you go to an opening game against Virginia Tech to an FIU?
I don't have confidence in anything, okay? I just know what we need to do to go about it so that that doesn't happen. And we'll certainly do our best from a technical standpoint because it really isn't about who we're playing. If you got the right kind of attitude on your team, it's about who you are and how you want to play. And I've talked about this over and over and over again. If you're playing against someone who's really good, that means that person determines how you play. And if you're playing somebody that, and I'm not saying this about FIU, but I'm just saying the other guy's not quite as talented, so that means you play poorly. Well, that doesn't speak very well on the kind of competitor you are and the kind of player you are. I think the great players, I don't think Kobe Bryant cares who he plays against. I don't think LeBron James cares who's guarding him when he's playing. He's trying to be the best player that he can be. And that's what we want our team to do. That's what we want our individual players to do, is what do I have to do to be the best player I can be, and how can I do that, and how can I do it on a consistent basis? And it shouldn't be determined by the opponent, whether it's Virginia Tech or whoever it might be. That shouldn't matter, just like the scoreboard shouldn't matter. So what you're asking me is, if we're 14 points ahead, am I confident that we'll keep playing? And if we're 14 points behind, am I confident that we'll keep playing? That's how we should be conditioned, because that shouldn't matter. If I want to be a great player, then I should be playing my best on every play. 6 seconds, every play like it has a history of life of its own in the game, to execute, do my job, do it with effort, do it with toughness, do it with discipline, execute the technique, and all those things necessary to be successful on that play. That's what good football teams do, and if we're going to be a good football team, that's what we need to do. All right, so I'm not confident of anything. I just know that that's the plan, and that's what we're going to try to get implemented to the players. And we need to have that personality if we're going to be able to improve and make the progress that we need to make. And I also want to say that in no uncertain terms, you're a typical fan, which you all can be. That's fine. All right, but I respect the people that we're playing. I respect our opponents. I want our players to respect our opponents. And this guy, number 4, is a better offensive player than anybody that we played against last week. You understand that? So whatever your perception is of what they ought to be, I don't think it's that. And I don't want our players to think that either. Now, as fans, you all can think that as much as you want. And you create that perception, which just creates more problems for me. Because the players read the paper too. Now, is that a good one to end on, or you want to ask something else while I'm getting fired up here?